who? And if not now, then when? And why go into a medical degree and work my entire life towards it if I'm not going to be serving my people and helping my people? In preparation, I think you're at the how part, or the in preparation to go. I mean, we took time off work. I personally didn't tell my family because I knew they would be too worried. I told only a couple. And then it was a lot of, support from donors, support from people who, wanted to give to Gaza and helped us gather supplies. So that's my answer to you.
All right, awesome. And then my mom would call me every day before I left, which was like 2 days. She found out 2 days before I left. She said, Aman, your intention, your intention, your intention. And that was truly the hardest part of why am I going? Am I going just to say that she's brave, she can go, she's a doctor? I mean, we went nusratan lillah, nusratan lillah. And we're just going to quickly just show you some photos. And Noor is going to talk about this a little bit of what we did in Cairo, mainly Noor, because she's awesome. And these pictures just will tell you how busy she got. Noor, you have the photos?
So I ended up getting there a week early. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So I ended up getting there a week early with a colleague of mine, and we basically started going from medical supply store to medical supply store, trying to find all the equipment that might be missing from the hospitals we're going to. We were in communication with those hospitals through the organization we're with, and they gave us lists of things that they needed. And, they needed such basic things like batteries and oxygen, oximeters and stethoscopes even, and just basic medications. If we look at the next slide, this was one pharmacist who, this pharmacist actually met me at midnight at one point to give me 2 boxes of antigen testing for hepatitis and pregnancy tests. And my colleague and I just kept every day meeting with the pharmacists, meeting with staff to try to get as much supplies as possible. All this with the idea that we had people donating to this mission, and we wanted to make sure that these donations, this amane, was going to supply the people of Gaza with the right medications and the right equipment. So definitely it was a difficult week. It was a tiring week, but at the same time, it was emotionally rough because I knew what was coming and we hadn't even started yet. We did end up getting lots of diapers and formula as well. I have to say though, it's a drop in the bucket in terms of how much is needed, but we did try our best in that week to gather these supplies. I want to show you our group of, we were a group of 12 in this organization going. And I'm going to show you the video on, if Aman, you can click on the video there. So this group of 12, we were in 2 very small buses, and there was about 80, between 80 and 90 bags. And these are huge bags. All of them of supplies from donations and supplies that we were able to gather to bring in. As a lot of you guys know, a lot of the donations and a lot of the food and everything is actually just sitting in trucks and waiting outside of the border. Thousands and thousands of trucks that are just sitting there aimlessly, sometimes for months. And so this was the easier way of getting things in, getting them as our own personal supplies to come in. And these bags are filled with medications and supplies that, alhamdulillah, I learned actually this morning that certain items for the NICU, for the baby ICU, were delivered this morning to Dr. Salama, the head of the NICU, and he was able to get the laryngoscopes to help with the ICU supplies. Our journey went from Cairo to the Rafah border, and if you look at it, it's actually not that long. Like I think a man had measured it out as like 215 miles.
Yeah.
We deal with kilometers here in Canada, but I think 215 miles is not a lot. And so 215 miles, and it shouldn't take that long. It's like I don't know, 4 hour drive or something, or maybe 5 hour drive. But it took about 12 to 13 hours at least to come and to go. And that's because of the multiple checkpoints and the length of time on the border. And all this is going through the Sinai Desert this entire time on those two buses. And imagine those two buses had 88 bags on them. We tried to sleep, and that's a picture of us. If you can see a man here in the back, I don't know if you can even see her. She's got, I don't know, 44 bags on top of her there. And this was our trip that one of our coordinators took of a candid photo of us trying to get to where we're going. Once we were there, we were greeted with a nice welcoming. Actually, it was quite beautiful. I did want to say that I'm originally Palestinian, and I had never ever been to Palestine in my life, and this was the first time I set foot in my homeland, the land of my ancestors, and my homeland. And it was quite emotional to be there, to actually cross the border and be in this land that I've been told is my home, and at colleagues have been there before, not necessarily Gaza, but have been to parts of Palestine before. And but for me, it was tenfold emotions, I would say. We met such wonderful people, including in the next slide, our driver, Ahmed, who took us everywhere.
Yeah.
This is us in our first couple of days. This is really actually the whole group there. And one thing about being there is the reality of being there. So I'm telling you about the crossing, I'm telling you about the emotional aspect of being in your homeland. But what does it feel when you actually go in? When you go in, the reality hits you of being in this war zone or being in Gaza. And Aman will play a video for you, or a sound actually.
Yes. So, disclaimer, if some of you, like my kids have watched these videos and they're fine with them, but some videos might be a little too loud for some kids. So if your children are not able to, they're more than welcome to head out now. But the moment you get into Gaza, this is the sound that greets you. Okay, let me see. So these are the drones. This is upon our arrival to our apartment unit. The drones. I'm sorry, I spoke during the drone situation, but I want you to let it sink in. This is a sound that you hear 24/7, nonstop, just telling you that you are being watched all the time. We can bomb you any second. But then, once you can't? Okay. So after the drones are there 24/7, and then this is what Gaza actually looks like at night. This is from our window. If you're confused, it is very dark. So at some point you see a very dim light coming from, yeah, here we go. They're probably solar powered light bulbs, but this is what nightlife, the moment the sun sets, this is what it looks like. And then the moment the darkness falls, this is what you start hearing. This is one of the actually nice bombs that we were hearing close to our home. But these are just the whole time. You try to sleep, and then what happens is that there's sunrise, and you become hopeful. This is the very first couple of nights. Just to let you know, this is from the balcony of our apartment, and one of the team is just awake in the morning and taking a video of sunrise.
They just hit right now. My God. They just hit this building. Shit.
And then after that, you start hearing people going to rescue. What happens during a rescue is, so let me tell you, before we talk about the rescue situation, so you hear the bombing, the bus comes, the same bus driver we had for a couple of weeks, the nicest guy, his name is Ahmed. And he comes in every morning to pick us up after we get the green light from our medical director saying the deconfliction report was sent and you are approved for your route where you're going to your destination. We try to take as many videos as you can, but let me tell you, the scene is 1,000,000 times worse than what you see on videos and on Instagram and in the news. It is so hard to capture the essence of what is going on. We tried our best, but one of the days, this is what it looked like by the beach. People have just lived their lives in tents. These are people that have had beautiful homes. Each one of them is willing to share their story. Each one of them is willing to tell you that they miss their home. They're willing to do anything to go back to the rubble that it was once called their home. Especially children. We're going to show you some pictures of children and some stories. But any child you ask will tell you, I will die for Al-Aqsa. Any child you ask, they tell you, I am willing to go back to my rebel. I will stay in this land. They are extremely attached. When I told them that I'm originally from Jerusalem, from Al-Quds, to them, Quds is divine. They are willing to risk their lives. Just like they know that this mission is Orfur al-Aqsa. And they are okay with it. They tell you we did not choose this. And then let me show you. On another day, some of our team members passed by the road called the Salah ad-Din road, which is the central road in Gaza. Now we were living in Rafah. Rafah is the southernmost border. You can go to Rafah, you can go to Nsirat, you can go to Zawaide and Deir al-Balah. Khan Yunis, part of it is you're able to go in. The north is off limits. No one can get in or out of the north. Most of the people are refugees from the north. They will tell you their stories. And this is from the southernmost part of the north. the most accessible part. And this is a video taken by one of our doctors. You see absolute destruction. There's nothing left. They bombed every infrastructure out there. Even in Rafah, which is supposed to be to the northern Gazans, Rafah is the luxury place. Rafah is more like a targeted area. Like they hit certain targets. Unlike the north, where it is total annihilation, total destruction. Schools, mosques, especially mosques. Mosques are a very, very big target. But I'm telling you, I would let that sink in a little bit. The years that they built, all the past year that they built, totally gone. Noor, would you like to just say a word or so about the situation in Gaza and what it looks like on the ground?
The first thing you see is like there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people everywhere in Rafah, and you realize very quickly that there's, all 2 point something million are trying to be in that small space. The infrastructure is gone. There's lots of kids everywhere because there's no school. The sound of the drones is everywhere. Even when you're outside playing with the children, you hear drones right above you. And these are not just drones that are just monitoring. These are drones that are also armed. And so I remember me and Aman were playing with the kids outside, and there's 2 drones circling while we were playing, and everybody's just going about their day and playing together, kind of pretending like it doesn't exist, pretending like it's not intimidating. I did want to read you a post that a colleague of ours, Dr. Khan, wrote about what it sounds like to be there. I think he really nails it, and it really hits home. This is exactly what it sounds like. You heard what it sounds like, but this is what it feels like. So his post starts with, on the sound of Gazan skies. When you enter Gaza, you immediately are greeted by a persistent sound, much like a propeller blade, but sharper. It is the sound of a drone, relentless. It only fluctuates in volume and pitch as it approaches or recedes. At times, there's more than one. Rarely, there are none. It is a reminder that you, your friends, your family, and your children are watched constantly from above. A twisted, sadistic, apocalyptic attempt at the divine eye, where your ancestors once gazed into the cosmos, finding meaning and freedom. Here, that gaze is intercepted as it looks back at you. Even in the open air, you cannot help but lower your head instinctively to avoid the scrutiny of eyes in the unseen guard tower. Interspersed with the invasive sound is the rumbling, screeching sound of jets. I was incapable of ignoring it, he says. Each flyover halts the mind, even if the body continues its actions. It waits and anticipates what may follow. Because every so often, the sound of jet engines is followed by the grisly swish of a missile fire. Pause would pour over my person, my breathing, heart, thoughts, and molecules halt in anticipation of the unmistakable sound of collapsing concrete. This latter sound hushes even the children at play. He says, after returning to the US, my mind searches, needing reminders of why the drone's intrusive humming has stopped. And when he arrived to JFK, the sky was gray and rain drenched the streets. Whenever the clouds rumbled jet-like from lightning, I found my ears searching for missile fire. And that's the end of his post. But I mean, till now, when I hear a helicopter or I hear a plane, you halt and you think to yourself, where am I? and you realize you're home safe and sound when your new friends and your family really in Gaza are not. And that's what it feels like to be there, and that's what it feels like to be here.
Something interesting happened when I came home. The first thing that my 7-year-old was telling me, Mama, I got a Eid gift from my friend, and guess what? It was a drone. So I never expected, I think of myself as a person who could tolerate more, but that moment, I thought, my kid, to him, this is a toy. And he's very happy. There are so many kids that are just living this reality every day. And then, let me tell you, it gets better. The next morning, we put our bags in Indonesian hospital. Abu Bara, Allah yarda alayh, he took care of them. The next morning, we come in to sort them. And then after we sorted, he's helping us out and he's a really nice guy, just sits, keeps to himself, just does dhikr. And then I was like, Abu Bara, how are you doing? He's like, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah to them. I will tell you later what Alhamdulillah means to them. I was like, how's your family doing? He brings his phone out and shows me the background of his phone. It's his 4 children and wife in coffins. And then he was like, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, I still have 2 sons, still alive. That was our first encounter with a Ghazan. He started showing me videos and telling me how amazing his kids are, but only one child was a little bit difficult because he did not finish Hifz al-Quran. That was difficult for him. Every child of his who finished the Quran, he was like, I strived to let them, their reward was going to Umrah. When his older child got accepted into, he's 18, got accepted into medical school, but of course the schools got bombed. And then the other child, both of them lead Taraweeh at the hospital. This is the typical Ghazan. This is the start. This is where Gaza shines. Then he proceeds to take us to the beach. He's like, I insist, you have to see the beautiful Gaza. On our trip to the beach, there are, as you see, there are so many, like if you don't see them here, but around this area are all refugee tents. And in the middle, it's a cemetery. And the little stones are for either children or people who don't know who they are. But what was striking is the number of kites. I've seen several of the boys and the girls, the little ones, they are extremely efficient at making the best kites. You see these kites in the sky with the drones, and you think to yourself, like, these people are not scared. They love life. And then we proceed to go to our respective hospitals. We were stationed at 3 hospitals, our team. Noor and I and Dr. Mateen and Dr. Kamran were stationed initially at Emirati Hospital, which is a maternity hospital. Several others were stationed at the other hospital, Shuhada al-Aqsa and Yusuf al-Najjar Hospital. We just wanted to tell you some of the experiences that we had at these hospitals. Noor, would you like to share maybe the welcome that we received? I know I'm putting her on the spot.
Absolutely, no problem. So in the NICU hospital, the baby ICU in Emirati hospital, we were greeted with quite the welcome. Everybody was so happy to see us, and we really felt like these are our family. It's funny. For most people assume I'm a foreigner or assume that I don't speak Arabic or that I'm white. Um, and and then they hear me speak Arabic to them and they get very, very surprised. And one of the doctors, Dr. Ahmed on the left, when a kid on the street while we were walking down after when we came out of the hospital and a kid right outside the hospital was shocked and said, "Oh my God, she speaks Arabic?" Because they were pointing and they were saying like, "Oh, foreigner," because it's like fun to see someone from outside actually get in. You know, it's a place where people are trying to escape, and then when they see foreigners in there, they're always like happy to see foreigners. But anyway, so Dr. Ahmed goes, لا هي فلسطينية مثلنا. No, she's Palestinian like us. And that got me. I I am not, I am Palestinian, I am proud, but I am not like them. I have been privileged for half my life. I was a refugee half my life, but privileged for the other half of my life and privileged right now. Um, and and I can leave and they can't. And I really felt like it was such an honor for him to say that I am like them. And the welcoming that we received as part of the team, the doctors there, they're quite tired. They haven't slept in days. They show up to work already tired because they sometimes are working in several hospitals on the same 24 hours. There's a doctor there who he's always in his PJs because he lives there. And some of the doctors, in fact, live in tents, and the nurses live in tents. And the staff there have not been paid in many, many months, at least 5 months. And they're just working. They're working because they're working for their people. They're working for their community. And we were privileged. We were blessed to be able to at least alleviate some of the work from the doctors, and be able to help that way. And it just is just number one, the welcoming we got was absolutely superb. To talk a little bit about the Emirati hospital, I mean, it was very very poorly equipped, and yet it was the better equipped one out of any of the ones we saw. Um, they didn't, there's certain blood tests you absolutely need if you have someone on a ventilator, on a breathing machine, and those blood tests are not available. You can do very limited blood tests on these babies. The babies we saw were very malnourished. And sometimes in one incubator, in one, let's say, bed for the baby, sometimes you had 3 babies there. And I've never seen that. I've never seen more than one in one bed. You're not supposed to mix people with different diseases because then, you're going to be spreading more of the disease. But they were so tight on space, so tight on equipment that this was the only way. The other maternity hospitals were bombed and damaged, and so lots of the children from the north had come to this Emirati hospital. There's Dr. Salame on the right. He's the head of the NICU hospital. He is absolutely superb. I don't know how he does it, but he works like mad and tries to as much as possible do what is right for these beautiful patients. The patients themselves, the babies, the parents, they were so grateful every time we told them that, we're from the US, we're from Canada. They were so grateful for our presence and they were so welcoming. Honestly, it was just such a blessing to be there and to be able to help in any way that was possible.
Thank you. One of the patients that I saw, it is a tragic story, but it just emphasizes who these people are. So this family had already lost a baby not long ago. They were not sure why the baby died, but they thought, well, we can try again. They were told at the very end of the pregnancy that this baby will not live. The baby has a brain abnormality and they were not going to live. The medical system is so overwhelmed that there is no time to grieve. It's a tiny space, a couple of open cribs, where you go to a delivery, bring the baby, put the baby there, and the family was told in front of the family, they're like, well, the baby's gonna die, just let him die. The dad was standing there looking at me with tears in his eyes, this lovely young man, and they did not have the mental capacity or the time or the energy or the space to let this family grieve the inevitable death of their child. What I did is I was like, okay, I am here. Let me do this. I hold the baby, wrap him up in a swaddle, and hand him to his dad, who is crying silently. He holds this baby, and in a corner, surrounded by so many patients, let me tell you, there are probably maybe 15 people in an area that is as big as, a little bit bigger than this table. He held him, I took a picture of them, and I was like, what is the name of your child? What do you want to name him? What surprised me, I don't know if you're going to have this feeling the way that I am feeling. He said, I am naming him Tufan. That brought chills down my spine, because Tufan is the name of Tufan al-Aqsa, the name of this whole operation to free al-Aqsa. And when he said, Alhamdulillah, you are extremely humbled. You're like, they are saying Alhamdulillah for everything. Everything to them is Alhamdulillah. So and then he comes to me later and we talk about it, and then he says, is there any testing that can be done? I don't want this to keep happening to us. We already lost another child. But guess what? In Gaza, that is not possible. It is not. I just had to tell him there are no freezers to put a sample for even after the war is gone. So he just held his baby, sat down, and just made dhikr. As a physician coming from the United States and seeing the privilege that we live in here, but also knowing that the NICU in Gaza, right before the war, they celebrated a success story of a surviving 25-weeker, which here, even in the US, that is a huge success story. These people are smart, they're capable, they cry for their kids. Dr. Salama himself was telling us his house got bombed, but he was laughing about it. My house got bombed, but I was so angry because I was eating soup and I lost the soup. I was so hungry. Then they moved to another home. That home itself wasn't bombed, but the whole area around it was bombed. So he moved to Rafah to be close to the hospital, which is the majority of doctors. They don't see their families for months at a time. And his family stayed in that house. His family called him, and his 9-year-old told him, Baba, we want to be with you. We want to die together. And these are the doctors that show up every day. They do their best. He comes in with a smile and says, everybody, you're supposed to be happy today. There is no reason for anyone not to be happy. And then we make a site visit to Mustashfa Shuhada al-Aqsa. This is the hospital right now that is in Deir al-Balah that you see on the news, where so many Palestinians are brought in from casualties. Noor, do you want to just describe a little bit about what it looks like to go into Shuhada al-Aqsa?
Just a quick second.
The first
We are
thing
going
you
to
notice
add
is just there is
15
no
minutes to
space.
Salah, inshallah. 9:45 we'll pray.
Okay, inshallah. Yeah, we have 15 minutes.
Say that again?
We have 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay,
The first thing
perfect.
you notice is that there's no space. There's no space to move. There's so many people. There's patients on the floor. There's patients being brought in, wrapped in blankets and then replaced on the floor, and that's now their new bed. Every corner you turn, even in the stairwell, you see patients. And I'm talking patients with IV poles, patients being treated. It is the one of the functioning hospitals, meaning that it's got every patient possible in that hospital. It's hard to move around, and it's honestly, the air is just so tight. And this is, right outside the hospital, you see an area of just journalists because it's one of the more covered hospitals. And unfortunately, this hospital was targeted just a few days after we left it, actually.
In terms
You want
of,
to
yep.
you want us to go to Al-Najjar or?
No, but just one of our nurses who came with us with the delegation, his name is Abdullah, and I don't know if you saw the video of the Jordanian doctor who was saying that he smelled a beautiful scent coming out of some shuhada. The nurse who was with us, he actually texted us that night saying that this man, Mu'ad Salman, he corrected it, he was in his early 20s, one of 9 martyrs who came into Mustashfa Shuhada al-Aqsa after their house was bombed. He is a hafidh al-Quran, and I can smell a beautiful musk smell coming out of him. And he says, I smelled it myself. But I don't know what he smelled. I wasn't there. But you hear this. They say shuhada and they say Quran. You hear the word Quran there all the time. Everybody is just holding a mushaf in the corridors, in the streets. They're just reciting Quran, reciting dhikr. And we got, alhamdulillah, the rizq of going to Gaza during Ramadan. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But this is the talk of Gazans. Quran, Jannah, Allahu A'lam, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And we also went, Noor and I, one day to Yusuf al-Najjar Hospital, which is situated in Rafah. The picture on the right just tells you, this is a picture by one of our physicians who worked there for the majority of his time. And he was so surprised. He did a night shift and it wasn't as busy, but it gets flooded with patients because the bombings happen at night. So they're always prepared for casualties. One of our doctors was working there one day, and around midday, there was a bombing. We heard of a bombing. And we were told not to leave Emirati hospital because it was our neighbors. They said, stay put until we know what the situation looks like. He texted us. He's like, I just resuscitated the 8-year-old who was one of the presumed survivors of this bombing. And he had to declare her death just after she arrived. Some of the members of her, either family or neighbors, brought her in a blanket. Her face was half off. They had to declare her death on arrival. So these are some of our doctors who witnessed all of that. For Shuhada al-Aqsa, Noor, do you want to... So Noor is standing here, and this is the floor. The green is the floor. Shuhada al-Aqsa, if you look here, Najjar Hospital, it wasn't supposed to be a hospital. But since all the hospitals are bombed, the Shifa is gone, Nasser is gone, Kamal Adwan is gone. You see here, this is the station where the doctors stand behind this desk, and the ER is this floor right in front of it. Behind this floor on this side, there are 6 beds, which are supposed to be the inpatient units. A patient is brought in and put on the floor. So hence you see Noor sitting on the floor doing an ultrasound on one of the victims of a shelling who came in with her 2 children. Noor, do you want to add to Najjar and how overwhelming?
Yeah, so the photo on the right, just to give you an idea, was taken on the 27th night of Ramadan. And this is why that our colleague who took the photo thinks that the hospital was actually empty. Everybody was at home praying Taraweeh and praying on the 27th night. Of course, this was a very short-lived peaceful time. In reality, every square you see has a patient standing there waiting to see a doctor, and that's the majority of the time there. That is the Al Najjar Hospital. Honestly, it was quite busy, just like I described the Al Aqsa, but this is not again not supposed to be a hospital. It was just it's really outpatient clinics, and very often we saw patients on the floor, even ones that need resuscitation, like the one that I was treating on the left side. And right next to us, while I was with this patient, to the left of us was a patient who was actively dying, and her family was surrounding her. This is the reality of the situation there, and it's a tough place to be. It's a tough place for the patients and for the community there. And honestly, no one deserves this, least of all these beautiful people. Speaking of people, we would love to talk to you about some stories. I'll have Aman start.
So, if we remember COVID times, I don't know if you remember how we all jammed in Walmart, Costco, just packing our homes. So you would think in such a situation that it would turn into the Hunger Games, but it is the opposite. These people are willing. The word, I try to find the word ithar in English. I don't think it exists, but like some nurses at the hospital, and genuinely speaking, they were like, Dr. Odeh, we have 2 potatoes and an onion. Please stay with us for iftar. And this is true. They are the most generous people I have ever seen. One of our nurses, chocolate there is a huge commodity. So they haven't seen chocolate in 6 months. One of the nurses at one of the clinics was able to get 2 pieces of chocolate. Immediately, he goes to one of our nurses and says, I have 2 pieces of chocolate. Please have one. Our nurse, he came home, he could not contain himself. These are people who have been starved, and yet, that is what they do. Noor, do you want to tell them about the little boy?
Absolutely. So I was in the back room of the NICU, the baby ICU. There was a small area there. And very often you see in the hospitals, little kids, like 10-year-old, 9-year-old kids carrying jugs, and they're looking for drinkable water. And unfortunately, the hospitals sometimes tell them, to go away, because otherwise you'd have mobs and mobs of people trying to get drinkable water from the hospital, and the docs and the nurses can't actually do their work. So very often we actually see people, security guards, asking the kids to leave carrying those jugs. This one kid, he was about 10 years old. I was sitting in the back room and I see him walk in, and he got scared when he saw me because he thought I would ask him to leave. Of course I didn't, and he started filling up tap water. He's filling up his jug with tap water. A nurse saw him and saw me, and then instead of yelling at him to leave, she basically told him, this is not drinkable water. You shouldn't be filling this up. Immediately, his face filled with sadness, and he said, my mom asked me to go get drinkable water, and he felt like he failed his mom. And so I looked at him and I said, I have a bottle of water. Would you like one? And he said, yes, but how many do you have? And my answer is, I think I have one. He said, but if you have one, you should keep it for yourself. And that's a 10-year-old kid who's parched. His lips are dry. He looks dry. He hasn't had proper water, and he's asking me to keep my bottle. He was telling me how he's had cardiac surgery when he was a kid, and that's why he's trying to find drinkable water. The same nurse had passed by, kind of heard the whole ordeal and told me like, okay, I'll take him to where drinkable water is. He goes to fill it out, and then I go search my bag to find my bottle of water, and I actually found two. So I came and I gave him both bottles, and he right away returned one to me. Of course, I gave it back to him, but this is to go and show you that it's not just the adults, it's the children, the sharing, the kindness, the sacrifice. Honestly, I'm privileged to say that we are even from the same blood, if it's even possible. It's and these stories are just the ones that we have experienced. Imagine the countless ones that are happening right now. And it just goes to show you they're there for each other. They're there, despite the terrible times, they still are caring and sharing.
I'll try, yeah. I mean, the stories are endless. You just ask someone, how are you doing? And the other thing, let me tell you, they don't complain to each other, because if they complain, they might find out, like, I lost one family member, the other person lost all of their family members. Like, one of the nurses was, when we were told to stay put in the hospital, don't leave, they're bombing the area, they told us, like I was making dua for the family, I was like, Ya Allah, protect them. And one of the nurses left. The other nurses were telling me, Dr. Odeh, this nurse, we don't even know how to talk to her about it. She lost 15 members of her family, including her husband and 2 children. But she still can't believe that she lost her 1-year-old because she could not find his remains. But these nurses themselves have lost so many family members. They're themselves displaced and living in tents. So they're asking me to console her because they feel like she's been through a lot. And if you see the pictures right here, these are boys in the street. Most of them are named Muhammad or Ahmed. If you just say Muhammad or Ahmed, it's probably right. Here, on this side, you see that I'm playing with them. The reason why we're playing with sand is there are no schools, there are no books, there are no toys. The books, most of these are refugees. The books have been bombed. They use the paper to light up for ovens. So when I asked, like, oh, does anyone have a paper so that we can play tic-tac-toe? They looked at me with surprise. They're like, we're refugees. What are you talking about? And then the picture on the right side, these are boys that I was like, okay, let's do multiplication table. Let's play a game. And then I was like, okay, who's the more hafid? And this kid with the blue undershirt, mashallah, he's a brilliant child. He looked at me, he's like, I don't like to tell. The way that the Quran is living and breathing in Gaza. This is their pride. And then you look at this one here, these 2 girls, her name is Isra and Siwar. The little one is 4 and the older one is 7. So we were talking, the family invited us for dessert. So we're sitting there and they were so kind because that was a very, very scary night for us. There was a lot of bombing going on, just close to the area. These 2 girls, so it was a knee-jerk reaction. When the bomb hit close to our home, I just jumped. I was so scared. The Siwar, the 4-year-old, looked at me and she was like, why are you scared? I felt so ashamed. She looked at me and she's like, we're not scared. And then the 7-year-old goes on to tell me the story of their family did not want to leave the north because they learned their lesson from 1948 and 1967. They know history. They know everything about what needs to be done. They're brilliant. You talk to a 4-year-old, it's like you're talking to a 50-year-old there. And they tell us how they fled between the tanks and how they went to a school and the school got bombed. And then on foot, they had to flee to Rafah. This is a 7-year-old. Mind you, this is a 4 and a 7-year-old telling us this. But they're telling us, we love you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for risking your life. And you feel like I wasn't talking to them like I was talking to children. I'm a pediatrician, I have 3 children. But I was like, I am very humbled. This here is in Camp Nusayrat. The Camp Nusayrat is currently being heavily bombed. The thing is that now, to us, these things, when we hear it, we have faces that we put to the words right now. We went to Camp Nusayrat, and this is a camp breakers. When bombings happen, these kids just come to this place because they forget about the war. These two, one here and then another one called Musa. Inshallah, we'll have more sessions because the stories are honestly endless. They're teaching kids some dancing, and they play a game with the kids where the closer the bombings are, the higher they throw the ball, and the kids are supposed to cheer higher so that they don't hear the bombings. That day, we really felt that was it. We are going to die. This is the closest to Khan Yunis, and the bombings are there. You see the bombings, you hear the bombings, you hear the drones. It's constant 24/7, and the kids are playing. And then we have a video actually of a 12-year-old named Omar. My son's Omar, Allah yakhalli. But we were asking them, like, are you actually scared? And they look at me, they're like, well, Nancy, our coordinator, was asking questions, and basically he looked at us. He's like, we're not scared. The most important thing are the little kids. He's 12. He says, اللي الله كاتبه بيصير. إن متنا متنا وإن عشنا عشنا. What God has written is written. If we live, we live. If we die, we die. And these are kids like they haven't seen toys in 6 months, and we bought some toys and some balloons. And as they're blowing the balloons, they're telling us this. And then this guy, Muhammad, he was close to the area, was I don't know, Noor, do you just want to give them just a snippet of what Muhammad and Musa did?
In terms of, yeah, absolutely.
Like the rescue mission that they were telling us about.
As Aman mentioned, they are part of the camp breakers taking care of the kids, but just next door is where one of them lives. And unfortunately, at like 4 a.m, his house got bombed, and his parents passed. His parents died, and his sisters died, and he was under the rubble. And his friend, who is nearby, heard the bombing and came to get him out of the rubble. And apparently, when he was taken out of the rubble, he was just holding out a peace sign, and was rescued by his friend. And this kid, I say kid because he's 19, and he's telling us his story. He's showing us where his parents were bombed. He's showing us inside his house. We actually climbed onto the rubble, went inside his house, and he was explaining to us the story. And this had happened just 2 weeks ago. And yet he talks to us with such hope and with such a stoic nature that I almost felt like, how are you human? How are you 19 and how are you human? And this is the resilience that they have. And some of them tell us, stop using the word resilience. We have no choice. But my answer to that is actually, like, you have the choice of going mad, and you haven't. And they've so I think resilience is the proper word, whether they like it or not. Unfortunately, they really are. Because they have the choice of not having their iman, going crazy. I could see myself going mad myself if I was in their situation. And God bless them and God protect them. And this is what they're enduring every day. I do have to step off to go to my night shift. I did want to thank you all for the time and for the invite, and wish me luck tonight for my night shift, inshallah.
Take care, my friend.
Thanks.
All right, so I could just end this. I know that's Salah time. Just wanted to say, when you read Fatiha, try to put yourself in Ghazan's shoes. When they say, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, they believe it. Allah is Ar-Rahman, Allah is Ar-Rahim. When you hear salah from your window in Gaza, they truly mean it. When they say, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah for everything, they are truly grateful. So for the kids here, gratefulness is not just saying thank you. You have to work at it. You have to believe it. It has to come from your heart. And the dhikr, Ramadan in Gaza, is just another story. But I just want to end with this. The question that broke our hearts was, do they see this and how are they okay with it? Did the world forget about us? Almost every single person asked us that. And at some point, you don't know how to answer. You just break down. I urge you, as masajid, as individuals, be organized. Let's come together as a community. We cannot let this continue. The injustice has to end. I would urge you to support CARE, AMP. It truly requires all of us. Like I was yesterday at City Hall, and I actually took videos and sent it to the Gazans that I know now, and they just were like, these people, they're not even Muslims, and they're out there talking about our rights. It made a huge difference because they truly believe that the world forgot about them. There is a bill that they're trying to pass about sending more weapons. Call your representatives. Let us have deen in action. And in terms of education, these are some of the books that you can start with if you haven't done so already. Please, educate yourself. We are an educated community, but we need to take it a step further. Be writers. If you're good at writing, write. If you're good at poetry, do that. You're good at art, do it. Don't think your voice matters. Don't think that you can't make a difference. And then there are, some of the providers do write about this, and some of them, Dr. Moira Leng, she's a palliative care doctor who was with us. Rohan Gill was a nurse, and he posts. And then if you want to know like the actual casualty updates, OCHA has updates. And then just knowing that it is true. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. This is a message that I got from one of the nurses yesterday, actually. She is just saying, just pray for us that we continue to be steadfast and that our ajr does not go away. Pray for them. And this, I'm not going to read this one, but the idea is this is a mother who is responding to her daughter who is complaining about the situation in Gaza. And she's sending it to her daughter. She's like, stop. Allah knows best. And she gives her all the reasons why. And these are people who are displaced in Gaza. And then just remember, the ayat all go through Talut, 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 and then وَقَتَلَ دَاوُودُ جَالُوتَ. Where did Dawood come from? He's a little kid. Don't underestimate your powers. You are powerful in your deen, in your action, in your education. And then, I know that we're out of time, but this is a picture taken from the beach. This guy lost his home, but he's not giving up. He got up on his feet and he's building his house again. Let's be like him. Thank you everybody for listening. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you and accept from you the service that you have done. Really, it is a huge decision to go in such an area. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for our brothers and sisters and grant them victory. Jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, we'll pray in a few minutes.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
استقيموا استووا straighten the lines الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
The two kids who were running in the background, I need to talk to you, something personal. So inshallah, we'll give 5 minutes, inshallah. Whoever needs to leave can leave. Whoever needs to pray your sunnah, if brothers can come on this side, I'd like to invite Dr. Odeh up again so that we can ask her questions. How many people have questions for her? So I have an important question for her, and I'm sure many of you have as well. So inshallah, 5 minutes for us to kind of pray your sunnah or whatever. If you're gonna pray sunnah, maybe come on this side, or you can also pray sunnah at home. That's also something that the Prophet ﷺ recommended. But inshallah, in 5 minutes, we'll restart a Q&A session. We don't have a time constraint now. You can stay if you want. You can leave if you want, inshallah. Good? Let me give you a chocolate. He pays me every day. For any salah, he pays me a chocolate.
I get one. Thank you. Jazakallah khairan. It's okay. Hey, Habibti, how are you? You're just a fraction. Because I
But let me tell you, the best thing in Gaza is that I need to tell people this, that the complete withdrawal from the materialistic world.
Assalamu alaikum. So, inshallah, if you're still having a discussion, you can step into the lobby. If any sisters want to join us downstairs, you're welcome to join us, especially if you have questions, inshallah, please come down. The first question I have for you is, how did you even manage to get in? And, how did the Israelis let you in? As a foreigner coming in to help with supplies. Normally we hear that everything is shut down and nothing is going through.
So medical missions, depending on your organization, might be able to get in. It's very difficult. We got delayed 2 days because the Ministry of Health in Egypt did not approve they initially canceled our trip, and then they reinstated it. They tell you you're not in Gaza until you're in Gaza. It's a very rocky road. They could turn you away any minute. But as foreigners, it's a little bit easier for us to go in. But we did have one nurse from Qatar and one nurse from Jordan who were able to, but through the Canadian organization. There are several organizations, and it's mostly personal connections that can get you in. I filled out so many applications with no responses. It was through the WhatsApp group that I was part of. It's called Doctors Against Genocide. From the Egyptian side, yes. So you go through Cairo, they take you from the UN building at 4 a.m. You leave the UN building after a briefing, basically telling you that you're going on a suicide mission because there are no guarantees. And then they take you in UN buses to Rafah, basically. I don't know if hey buddy. That's my son, my 7-year-old. Any questions?
I can go next.
Yeah,
Assalamu
go
alaikum,
ahead.
sister.
Alaikum.
Jazakumullah khair for all the effort. May Allah put it in your hasanat, inshallah. So, even before this war, there has been a lot of doctors visiting. I read the doctor from Gilbert Matz, Nas in Gaza, and the conclusion and what I hear from a lot of doctors is that the doctors there, mashallah, they are, you mentioned that in your presentation, they are smart, they know what they're doing, they've been exposed. So when doctors go there, is there a need for doctors, or is it more of like a moral support? So if you can shed more light on what kind of help you offered while you're there.
So most of the delegations, they take surgeons. The difference in our delegation, I'm a pediatrician. The difference is that we were going to cover primary care sites, which is very different from surgical delegations. Let me tell you, the thing is that a lot of these doctors, it depends on how proactive you are, really. So at some point in our stay, Dr. Noor and I, we took over the unit. We saw that the doctors were having a good time in the call room, just chatting. Like for a change, they had someone to rely on, and we took over the unit. It was extremely overwhelming that day. Her and I both were like, I don't know how they do this every day. Despite myself and herself working in a high volume setting. But the fact, and also when we contact them right now, we're in constant contact with them. They see that, I'm telling you, when they saw that, like you have kids and you have you don't have family here and you're willing to risk your life for us, they look at it like it is huge moral support. The thing is that the resources are very, very limited. In terms of medical care, I'm not providing the medical care at a quality that I would approve for my kid. But at the same time, you're there moral support, but also being proactive in what you can do. Like Dr. Noor, she brought in her ultrasound machine, portable ultrasound machine, and was able to help with that. I told them, like, I do NICU care, please let me do this. And the doctors there, they tell you brought in a different type of energy. The other thing is that we also lend a listening ear. Again, I tell you, they don't complain to each other. We let them just put it all on us. Tell me more, how can I help? But also, knowing doctors on the outside, like I am still in contact with this father whose child has a metabolic disease, a rare metabolic disease, and I'm trying to help him get out of Gaza so that she can get treatment. So we are needed, but it's on you to be as proactive as you can. Because there can be a surplus of doctors, but if you're not there and you're like, let me take over, let me help you, let me listen, then you might feel like you're useless.
So if I can follow up a question. So you mentioned the moral support, virtual moral support. How can other doctors who are not, mashallah, blessed as you to have the honor to be there, how can they, while here, do that part of moral support? And not necessarily doctors, like how can a regular person do this kind of moral support, connecting with people over there?
As I said, be proactive in your community, and in Austin, don't let this bill of arms pass. Work. They send me text messages every day. Like a 15-year-old, I was in contact with him, our neighbor, and he's like, what are you guys doing? It is not working. Please do more. This is a 15-year-old, our neighbor, Muhammad Ismo. Even if you can't go on a medical mission, that's okay. But you can speak about it. You can call your representatives. You can write about it. At the hospital where I work, people are willing to listen. Doctors are asking, my medical director is asking me to do a talk for all the other physicians in the group, which is a huge group that we have. The nurses today, they just stopped me. They're like, Dr. Odeh, tell us more. We are changing. We are looking at both short-term and long-term. Short-term, we want to end this genocide, but long-term, the tides are turning. They're relying on us for getting. Let's not forget. Let's work. Let's continue to work. So I know that it's not like, but it makes a huge difference. It truly does. Yeah, anybody here?
Sister, Assalamu alaikum, I'm Dr. here. Sorry about that. So I am a rehab professional. I'm an occupational therapist. Too close? Is there anything we can do as rehab professionals to help out from here?
I'm telling you again, I can always get in touch with our medical director who sent us to Gaza, and I can ask.
Yes.
I'm telling you, the amount of amputees, the amputee children,
Yes.
mind you, amputee children in Gaza is astronomical.
Yeah.
They, we were in Yusuf al-Najjar hospital, and a family came in shelled. The girl who's 12, her foot was, like her knee, both knees had like huge pieces of shrapnel in them. This girl, they're like, okay, shrapnel will take care of itself because this is a minor injury to them. These kids don't go through rehab. They don't have physical therapy. The things that they tell you, we used to have. But I'm sure we can make use. Why not? We need therapists. They need like PT, OT. They need a lot of things. But I'm telling you, again, we're still building a community of people and seeing what we can do. Our organization that I went to was new, relatively new. And you can look him up. His name is Dr. Tariq Lubani. He was actually shot and his friend was killed in the March of Return a few years ago. And he is adamant to rebuild Gaza.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Sister Aman, for the talk, the reminder. Jazakallah khair, may Allah accept. I do feel that there was a moment that I stopped watching videos because I felt that I'm being stuck in an emotional state that's not productive. At the same time, when you don't hear a lot and don't read a lot and see a lot, you don't feel that you're connected. So you did something today that was very beneficial, and I think that there's a level of balance that we need to keep, as you said, keep it alive, not forget about it, and do what we can. My question to you is more on the side of, as a mother, what do you feel in terms of things that you feel that you're no longer gonna see it the same or do different as a parent after this experience?
Yeah, my kids will tell you I'm a little bit different after I came back. My mom was afraid that I would be depressed and just like off, but I came back with a mission. These kids, the kids that I saw there and their connection to the Quran, let me tell you, our connection to the Quran, this is what you need to work on with your kids. Let them be huffaz. I'm still, like, I just started waking up this week and I was working this week, but I told my kids we're gonna sit down and we're gonna write a mission statement for our family. This cannot go on like this. So for your kids and how to alleviate this little bit of the mental burden is your connection to Allah. There is nothing else that works. Because somebody was like, you should go talk to a therapist. I was like, first of all, who's going to understand genocide? Let's start there. It's not wrong, I'm telling you. I'm a physician. I believe in mental health and all that. But when I saw the Gazans, it was like they need mental health, sure. But I felt like my connection to Allah and the way that I read the Quran is very different now. So I would say start with your connection to Allah and your connection to the Quran, and this will take you places.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
Jazakallah khair. I'm not exactly sure what kind of coordination you have to do once you get in terms of movements and things like that as foreigners. What I'm curious about is, were any doctors been able to go to the hospitals north of Wadi Gaza? I know most of those hospitals are already non-functional. Some are still working with very, very limited capacity. But I've seen a few days ago, there was some mission from the WHO and was able to go to Shifa Hospital and evaluate the situation there. Are doctors not allowed to cross to Gaza and north of Gaza?
I mean, let me tell you, a few of our doctors tried. No, there isn't. The thing is that the situation in Gaza is, they tell you a day in Gaza is like, a day away is like eons in Gaza. Anything can happen. So the north, when people talk about the north in Gaza, it's like a totally different planet. There's starvation. People are living off of 200 calories a day. I know that in the past couple of days, they've opened up the corridor a little bit, but then they also bombed them. But I'm telling you, the doctor that we had who could not even reach his mom, like we had a doctor, he was living at the hospital, and he looks disheveled, you can tell. It's been very tough. He was forcibly evacuated from Shifa, and after several he just held a bag of food and formula because his wife and his infant were hungry in North Gaza and he could not get food to them. That's how bad North Gaza is. It's just horrible. I have connections now who have connections in North Gaza. I was able to hopefully get him some formula, and I texted them. I was like, so how's the situation? They did say that it might be, some aid is getting in, so maybe in the near future we'll get some medical aid as well. I'm telling you, if I had the chance, I would have absolutely, inshallah, gone, but it wasn't.
As a follow-up, I know there are very few, maybe in hundreds or less cases that were able to leave Gaza for medical treatment. I know the process is normally difficult and expensive as well.
Yeah.
Were you able to get a kind of a first-hand experience on what's the process like for those who can't be treated in Gaza to do outside? Is
Yeah.
there a formal process, informal process
Oh,
for that?
don't have my phone on me, but I actually have the process. There is a form that they have to fill, a certain form that they have to fill that has to go from a referral center in Rafah to the Ministry of Health form, and then it has to be approved by both, it goes to West Bank, and then from the West Bank it goes to Israel to be approved, and then it goes to Egypt. I'm telling you, this father, he lost a 10-year-old, and this 12-year-old, he's trying to get out because she doesn't have any medications, and I'm trying to talk to some of the doctors who are going in to get her some of these medications. It's been months, and every day she's deteriorating more. It takes a very long time. I'm in contact also with Heal Palestine. They were part of PCRF, which is the pediatric, basically like a children's fund. The Heal Palestine, they're working on facilitating getting especially children out for treatment. Now, the worst part is the cancer patients. These are the ones that are suffering the most. There's no treatment, there's no diagnosis. To start with, there's no treatment. And then even when they go to Egypt, it takes forever for the treatment to start. So cancer patients, they know that it is the death of them in Gaza. It's what we call the NCDs, the non-communicable diseases that are suffering greatly in Gaza, and they're not counted as part of the death toll. The diabetes, the hypertension, these chronic illnesses like kidney dialysis, because there are no MRI machines in Gaza, there's no testing, there's nothing really. You're just putting Band-Aids for most part. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there is a process. We know the process. There are people that we can get in contact with, but it is a very long process.
Press. It's on.
We have a question.
On this journey, were you ever like scared?
Yes, I was. The one night I was extremely scared that I could not. Most of the days we got our courage from the people around us. دايما بيحكوا إنه الموت مع الجماعة رحمة. But there was one night where they have two adans, like the way that they do it in Jordan too, the suhoor and then the fajr. And the suhoor, it was very incoherent. I don't know what was going on with that imam. It was very incoherent. At that moment, I woke up, it was 3:30 in the morning, and I thought that the Israelis had made it to Rafah because it was extremely incoherent, and I've heard before that they invade mosques. I just sat there and prayed, really. I was like, maybe this is it. The invasion is on. And then we laughed about the imam in the morning because what was he doing? But that moment of, and then you also ask the people around you, the scary part for them is not dying. It is what they heard was going on in Shifa and the torture that the people had to endure. So to them, they say, they'll tell you, we'd rather die than endure what happened to Shifa people. So that was a scary moment for us. So we stayed from a Wednesday. We were supposed to get in on Monday, but then we got delayed Wednesday, and then we left the Monday, like about 2 weeks is when we stayed. And leaving, you just get on, leaving wasn't that hard, but it is a 12-hour trip going back to Cairo, and the emotions are extremely, extremely high, because the question that you get from everyone, including our neighbors who are 5 families of refugees living in our building and the hospital, they're like, now that you're gone, are we going to be bombed? So this is the question that we got. I had a 9-year-old. She gave me, I actually have it with me, she gave me a little gift. She's one of the nurse's children at the hospital. And she worked with me because the kids have nothing else to do. But she's like, thank you so much. You made a huge difference in my life. So leaving Gaza, you felt like you've left a part of yourself in Gaza.
Okay. What was the thing you were grateful for when you came or when you went there and then you came back?
And I have another question. Why does the media always like forget about Palestine and then they bring it up and then they forget about it, and it's just like a pattern of forgetting and then remembering?
So the first question is, what was it again?
What were you, when you went and you came back, what were you most like grateful for? Like you took for granted?
You can ask Nada. My kids, I found a text chain from my kids to each other. They're saying, oh, she wants to go back. They're just texting each other. But it's, I thought it was a rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't, sometimes things don't happen, like you just don't know what's going to happen. But when I was writing my wasiyah, I just felt like I hope that Allah accepts. That's the biggest thing.
How has your life like changed ever since like you've been back from Gaza?
Yeah. So why people forget and on and off about Palestine. It's our job. It's no one else's job. It is our job to keep it going. Don't wait for anyone to do the job. You do it. And then how has my life changed? Oh, tremendously. The best thing about Gaza is that you're completely, the materialistic world is gone. You go back to your values and your core, and you think Allah, Quran, family, I gotta work on myself. Who cares? Like, let the dunya be on your hands and not in your heart.
So, Assalamu alaikum again. We all know that you're a hero, and I know that it will not impact you at all, but I would like to learn from your practice. Were you exposed to any Zionism, hatred messages after you came back? And if yes, how did you deal with it?
So I'm part of a physician group, and there was a post. I mean, it's not much, and honestly, it doesn't bother me. But the majority of people, they're supportive. The tides, I'm telling you, are turning. It's upon us to keep going. But I'm part of a physician group, and when I said I went to Gaza, one of the Israeli ones responded saying, like, did you see one of the hostages who was taken? Everybody thought it was very inflammatory because it was non-considerate at the time. And when I went to City Hall yesterday, you guys should go. You guys need to go to City Hall and hear it out. There's some people have left their jobs to just work for Gaza. They had little, like young adults and wearing the kufiya and the yarmulke together. So I think you guys should go and see for yourself, get to know these people. And then he was here, I can't remember his name, but he was one of the attendees. And yesterday, the two Israeli women who went up and spoke, this is the propaganda that we have to deal with. They were extremely, they said basically that if you are protesting for a ceasefire, then you're supporting terrorists and rapists, is what they said. So we have to be at the forefront. Like one priest spoke, a couple of Jewish people spoke. Zainab Haidari, she's the Palestinian Coalition for Palestine, she spoke, and all of them are just saying ceasefire. But then we're seeing more and more Zionists come into City Hall because our mayor is just refusing. So I spoke at City Hall, but inshallah I'll speak again. The little steps that we do, even if we change Austin, like it started out as 17 congressmen calling for a ceasefire. Now we're at 88. The more, the better. So that yesterday was very, very, one of them wrote a whole poem about how we are terrible people. You need to hear, the people need to hear that so that they know what we're dealing with. I'm telling you, there's hope. These children over there, they give you hope. And they're a funny people. They love a good laugh, and they love chili so much. It's so hot, the food there. I mean, we lived off of tuna. I can't see tuna anymore. But they were very generous. They sent us some food.
Is there any part of you that wish you could stay there in Gaza and help out, or are you grateful that you came back here?
Oh, I did. To be honest, I did not want to leave, but I thought my husband was just getting sick of the kids, so I had to. But I wish I could stay. Inshallah, I could take my kids with me as well. Like we are. The moment the ceasefire happens, it's upon us to rebuild. If you're good at engineering, be the best at engineering. If you're good at computers, be the best at computers. Be the best at what you're doing, so that when we're able to go and rebuild, we can do the best that we can.
I wanted to ask, my friends and I are all in high school, and especially in, living in Texas and in America, I think that there's a lot of people who discount what's going on over there and think because it doesn't affect us necessarily here that it doesn't matter. So if there's something like a misconception that you could share about the genocide, or something that you could tell someone that you think in your heart would make them care or want to take action, what would that be?
I mean, it's usually you read the room and know your audience. Some people are like, in the pediatric world, we have the people who agree with you, we have the hesitant population, and then we have the anti-population. The anti-population, you just don't deal with. But then and then there are people who are going to agree with you. It's the people in the middle, they're the hesitant ones. Like I'm talking in terms of vaccinations, because I'm a pediatrician and that's what we do. But the people in the middle are the ones that you work with. And you ask, what is your hesitation? What do you want to know? And that's where education for you is really important. Like you can start with asking them, like there are videos that they can, like movies that they can watch, like Tantura, they can watch that and they can see for themselves. Israelis talking about how they massacred Palestinians. There's the Israelism as well, by Jewish people. Norman Finkelstein, he's written multiple books. So you can direct them without being obnoxious to, okay, you want to, like tell me what your concern is, so that even if I don't know the answer to it, I can find out for you. What is your hesitation? What is your question? That's how you usually start. Does that answer your question? Good. Right.
Once again, Jazakallah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from you.
Ameen.
And subhanAllah, the one thing that comes to mind from hearing all the stories and seeing what we have seen is the resilience of the people of Gaza. And the positive of this is that they can try all they want. They will never be able to crush this people. Inshallah.
I'm telling you, I say that. I was like, they messed with the wrong people.
Yeah, someone gave the example of an olive tree, right?
Yeah.
That it grows, that you can not put it out. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring victory to our brothers and sisters and free Al-Aqsa. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Alaikum salam.